I have a good friend named Monica. Monica has triplets who are now 18, but I met them when they were 10 months old when I went to her house as a newer friend for a play date. My son Christopher, who's now 18, was 6 months old, and we've all just kind of grown up together. Monica and I went through a journey as single mothers together. We've traveled together. We've done holidays together. We've lived 2 blocks away, probably for about 6 years together. And so one time we were taking this trip to Michigan. We were going to a place called Oak Cove Resort, which is this awesome place in Michigan, really like laid back on the water. They make breakfast and dinner. They ring a dinner bell. Oh my gosh, just so much fun. Well, normally, if we went anywhere, we would all pile in Monica's car because there's enough room for 7 of us. This time, we didn't go with everyone. Monica stayed back with her son Cole, who had something going on. In previous trips, when we were in the car, Cole would be our DJ. We called him DJ Cole. And so in the middle of this drive, I realized that we didn't have DJ Cole. I said, "Oh my goodness, what are we going to do without our DJ?" And Ava, one of Monica's other daughters, said, "Oh, I've got some playlists on my phone. I'll take a look." And she's looking through her phone and comes out and she's like, "Oh, I have an oldies playlist. It's awesome." So to me, being I was probably 45 years old, I'm thinking we've got some Hey Paula, we've got some Run Around Sue, maybe some Beach Boys, maybe some Twist and Shout. I'm going way back. So she plugs her phone into my car, and all of a sudden Beyonce comes on. And I just started laughing. I said, "Ava, I thought this was oldies." She's like, "Yeah, this is like 2005." And it hits you. Life, so many parts of life are really about perspective. What is your perspective? I did a little search before I came on today because we're in the month of mindset for the 12 elements of health. And I wanted to see what the difference between mindset and perspective is because it kind of all rolls together. Mindset is a way of thinking, an attitude, or opinion, especially something that's habitual. We talked about it having a growth mindset or a fixed mindset and what that means a couple of weeks back. Perspective is a view, a vista, or an outlook, and that can normally be changeable, sometimes just by turning around. I remember there was a meme a while back that had two men sitting on the same bus traveling to the same place. And one of them was overlooking the mountain and the hills and seeing this beautiful landscape. And he had this big smile on his face. And the other one was just looking at the rock that the road was kind of carved into that was dreary and gray. And he just had a frown on his face. And when you think about it, the whole point of that was these two men were on the exact same bus, going the exact same place, in the exact same space. But one was turned to the left and one was turned to the right. I remember being with my counselor, Shelley, and there was a struggle I was having with someone close to me. And she was talking about it's the same elephant. You guys are just looking at it from different sides of the elephant. You're looking from one side and she's looking from the other side. And I think when you bridge that gap and you can understand that someone else might be right around the same area and right around the same problem or right around the same issue, that you can be coming from two totally different perspectives. I would like to introduce a thought of I believe we can have a mindset to be thoughtful to the fact that our perspective is just one perspective and a little more open minded to the thought process that other people have lived different lives. They have different things that are important to them. They've gone through different struggles. They have different fears. They have different things that they're interested in. And so when the world in general is talking about one thing, and this isn't anything specific to politics or anything going on right now in this world. I'm talking about in general in life. That so easy. It's so easy to get wrapped up in just your own perspective and have a fixed mindset that that's the only perspective. So I just would love to challenge everyone as you go through this week to think about how does my perspective shape my opinion of my relationship with someone or my work situation, or if someone is causing issues in my life in some place. Now, can I shift my perspective? Can I have a growth mindset to know that I can look at other perspectives and maybe see things from a slightly different angle? Another thing I wanted to talk about was failure. So often in our lives, again, mindset, the difference between um, mindset and perspective, and how do I relate that to failure? I started a business called Cafe and Play in 2012. 2011, I took over Naperville Moms Network, which is now called the Branch Moms Community as we branched out into other towns. But when I took over Naperville Moms Network from Kelly Thompson, I just had it in my heart that there was supposed to be this physical space, this physical place that people could go to, moms and kids and dads and families. And we would have ballet classes and drawing classes and birthday parties and all kinds of things that would bring people together that were meeting online and bring them together in a physical space and in person. And so I really poured my heart and soul into planning this business, into showing up at Sherwin-Williams and picking out the five main colors and where those colors were going to go. And we had a little town that had a home, a princess castle, a pirate clubhouse, and a little train station. And I had this awesome muralist named Ken. He's with Crayons or Murals Gone Wild. And he painted it, but I found all the images that I wanted him to kind of replicate. And every detail of this business, I worked on myself and created. I had a team of people that helped me, but I was involved with this, bringing this entity to life that had been in my mind as something that would be so awesome for the community. My dad, who is a financial planner, had just watched me go through a divorce in 2008. And as I've shared before, I went through a personal bankruptcy. I lost my home. My practice was in jeopardy. I almost gave my practice up. And he, as I'm excitingly telling him how I'm going to launch this new business, he, as every financial planning dad you could imagine, had some reservations of, just a couple of years ago, you were in a really bad financial space. You've done an incredible job of rebounding and regrowing the practice and getting yourself back up on your feet in a very short period of time, which is incredible. But are you really, really, really willing to risk that financial security to start a business that you don't know is going to actually be profitable? And my instant and immediate and gut reaction answer to that was yes. That this felt like something that was so strong in my heart that when I was 65, I knew that if I didn't try this and take that risk and risk failure, that I would be really disappointed in myself. I would always think, well, what if, what if this it took off, and not even from a financial component, but just what it would do for the community, how it could help people. So he was supportive from that point forward. He brought up his point. And so I go and I launch Cafe and Play. My dad and sister and friends came out for the opening, and it was amazing. The people loved it. The families that were coming, the moms that were coming, the feedback we got, just watching the little kids be able to play. But I made a couple really large mistakes in this process. I didn't um, I didn't really think about the small size of our play area, and the demographic of kids was really like 6 months to 5. And when you have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, you're actually going in the space, the play area space with them. In my mind, I guess I wasn't calculating how many people would be in that space before it felt too crowded. So that was one of the issues, is that we had a cap of how many people could come in. I also really didn't take into consideration the thought process of naps. And all right, in this demographic, there's lots of these kids are taking naps, and it might be at noon, 1 o'clock, or moms had to go home to get ready for older kids to come home from school. And so we were jamming every morning from 9 to 12. You would, I, another one of my mistakes, I'll tell you in a second, but Cafe and Play was right next to my practice. So I would pull into the parking lot, and the place was packed with minivans and SUVs. It was like a mom heaven right there. As I talk about the other mistake I made, I put Cafe and Play right next to my practice, truly for ease of me, right? I could go back and forth. I'd be right there. I didn't have to get in my car and go somewhere. But this was a retail space, and the retail space, it has a very high rent. And looking back, had I been more thoughtful, a little more mindful about some of the choices that I made, and looked into this business model a little bit more, I would have understood the financials of it a little bit more. And I would have put it in not a retail space that commands that really high rent because of the visibility that you have. Anyway, Cafe and Play made progress financially each year, but at the end of the 3-year lease that I had to make the decision of whether or not to continue. And of those 3 years, we had 1 month that we broke even, but most months I was losing a few $1,000s a month on it. Now, because it was right next to my practice and I ran Naperville Moms Network, we certainly were getting people that were new to town, would join Naperville Moms Network, would come to Cafe and Play, then realize I was a chiropractor and realize my chiropractic practice was right next door. So we were getting some patients that would come from Cafe and Play or from Naperville Moms Network and come in as patients. And because the practice was doing really well for a period of time, I kind of looked at it as, well, I mean, I don't really pay for marketing, so I can kind of put this in a marketing budget, that anything that's lost financially on a revenue standpoint per month at Cafe and Play, if we're getting 5 or 6 new patients a month from the 3 entities that I owned, at the end of the day, it all washed out, and I was actually doing something good for the community and putting it out there so that people could enjoy this space with their kids. But in March of 2015, we ended up closing our doors. There have been some other things that happened in the practice and insurance world that we lost a lot of patients that month, and my landlords were going to raise the rent on me. So the combination of not wanting to put my practice in jeopardy, and then having a space that wanted to charge me more rent, they also had another business that was willing to come in. All of a sudden, the thought process that this almost isn't even my decision, it's kind of something I have to do to close it, I felt an intense amount of relief. And relief is an emotion, from what I understand, that you can't make up in your mind. When you feel relief about something, no other past experience or belief can funnel into it. Like when you feel fear about something, it can be fear from something that is kind of penetrating into today, which is something that you actually went through last year. When you feel happiness about something, you might hear a song that brings you back to an old memory that now you feel today because of that past experience. But relief is something that you cannot make up, and you can't have past experiences come into it or project onto it. So I ended up closing Cafe and Play, and it was super sad. On one hand, it was the families that had been coming there week after week, and their little kids, and like seeing the little kids like the last day when they left, and they're like, we can't come back. That part was heartbreaking. But for me, it also brought like I said, a substantial amount of relief. So why I share that story is moving forward, and now looking back, I closed it 6 years ago now. It feels like a whole different world. But I have always held on to the gratitude that I did it, and that, you know what, I couldn't make it financially work, but it was It was what I dreamed it was and more for those 3 years that I was open to it, or that we were open. And I made this dream from my head come alive. And that in itself is just an awesome thing to hang your hat on. And I never look back and beat myself up or taken the perspective that that was, well, I wasted money, I lost a lot of money, that's for sure. um, I try to focus on what I've gained and have that positive mindset of what can I take as lessons learned from this quote unquote failure. Many people are afraid of failure. They're so afraid of either being embarrassed or trying something and it not working, leaving a job that has some security that they hate, and they have this business in their heart. I understand that there's a lot of complicating factors that go into decisions, especially when it's regarding anything that has to do with your finances and money. But I am a big believer in, we've got this one life here, and we've all been given specific gifts and knowledge and dreams. And if you're just sitting in this fixed space or this fixed mindset of, this is what my life is, and well, I kind of found my way into this job and I'm kind of just stuck here. I'm a big believer of taking some risks, but with that comes always more opportunity for failure. And so at some point at the end of the day, you have to get a little more comfortable with failing or the possibility of failing. And I remember writing the letter that went out to say that I was closing Cafe and Play. At that time, I think our email list on Naples Moms Network had 4,000 or 5,000 members on it. We'd had 7,000 families come through Cafe and Play in 3 years. So this communication went out to a lot of people in our community. There were only a choice few that actually knew I was closing and that this letter was about to go out. I believe I sent it out on a Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And I remember waking up with a pit in my stomach, wondering what people were going to say, a little bit embarrassed because a number of people had actually said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to do this." And at the end of the day, if I close it, at least I know I tried it. And that day, that day after I sent it out, I must have received 150 messages back. One woman wrote me a poem, one of my friends. One woman congratulated me for entering the next phase of leadership, and with the definition of a leader, knowing when something needs to close or end and making hard decisions. I just got so much wonderful feedback. I got pictures of people from their kids at Cafe and Play. And what I thought was going to be one of my saddest days actually goes down as one of my top favorite days in my life. I did it. I took a dream, I created it, I launched it. 3 years of families and 7,000 families got to enjoy it. And although it couldn't continue, look at the beauty that came from it. And I love to keep that perspective of that quote unquote failure in my life at the forefront of almost everything I do. At the end of the day, if it's something that I feel like I want to do, I just want to push through the fear and the worry and do it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I think about Socket, launching Socket. A lot of people have asked me, well, what are your goals with it? My goal is, I just feel like I have a lot inside of me that I want to share with other people that I think could maybe help them with their mindset or their perspective or their confidence level. And I think that by sharing some of these things in different formats, whether it's on my blog, on my website, or it's on podcasts, or it's through the practice, or it's through running the branch, um, the more information I can put out there that's inside my heart that I feel I can help people, then I can take that and just feel happy with it. At the end of the day, if Socket doesn't take off and turn into something larger where tons of people are listening to it, I'll be a little bummed out, because I think the messaging that I'm sending out can be really helpful to women. But some of it is just the beauty of creating and the beauty of the art form and the beauty of getting the communication out there. And so I like to focus a little more in the present as opposed to in the past or in the future, because the present is kind of where it's at. I mean, the present is the here and now. And the more plugged in you are to this present moment, I believe the happier and healthier that you can be. I got a little off topic there. Anyway, we'll wrap it back up with perspective. There's many different perspectives on the exact same thing. And the more you're open to investigating other perspectives, the more along the path you're going to be to finding the one that fits for you, that helps you process your world around you, your decisions, your relationships, and the dreams and goals that you have within your heart. So I hope this has been helpful to you, and I hope that you have a great day. I'll be back soon.